My friends, it's good to be with you. Salamun alaikum. I want to discuss an important topic, and that is the idea of identity. Now, you might think it to be a fairly trivial concept, but believe me, it goes to the core of our existence, of what we are, of who we are, of what we want to project ourselves as. Now, I've in recent times come across, and I meet online many a person who's come into whose first contact with the idea of Islam and of Muslims has been his reading of the Qur'an. And when he reads the Qur'an, he imagines himself to be he imagines accepting the Qur'an to make of him or herself a certain person. And then when they later on come into contact with the Muslim society or Muslim people, they cannot reconcile the person that they imagined themselves to be in alignment with the Quran when they come in touch with the Muslims. And believe me, it's not something that I've dreamt up. It's something that is real. It is there. I get contacted by people who experience this, and I want to delve into that. I want to explore that idea a bit in this video with you. Now, the first idea, there's two important concepts here that we need to clarify. And as usual, I'm going to use the Quran as my basis, because that is really the only divine inherent literature that we can root ourselves in. That, and of course our own healthy, sane senses and our own healthy, sane minds. Those are the things that we can rely on. We cannot rely on hearsay and word of mouth and conjecture and inventions and fabrications and schemes that were invented by the sultans. We cannot rely on that information as on which to build a sound understanding. So using the Quran then, we need to explore two tags or two titles or two names associated with those who embrace or accept or endorse the message embodied or captured in the text of the Quran. And those two titles or tags are the words Muslim and Mu'min. For some reason, over the centuries, the word Muslim has become the important denomination or word by which those who accept and abide by the Quran, who admit to the messengership of Muhammad, the Arabian Prophet ﷺ, they have come to call themselves Muslimun. And it is strange. It's a very strange development indeed, because the Quran does not really, in a casual sense, refer to the Muslim community at the time of the Prophet as Muslims. It's a fact. I can show it to you. I can pull out a few verses from the Quran. Let me take one quickly. Let me take this one at 492. It's just a random verse in which the idea of a mu'min, the idea of a Muslim is highlighted. And in this particular verse, it speaks about if a murder should happen in the community. It should never happen that an embracer kills another embracer. Now here the word embracer is translated from the word mu'min. وَمَا كَانَ لِمُؤْمِنٍ أَن يَقْتُلَ مُؤْمِنًا. So in this case, clearly the identification is as a mu'min. But there are many, many more. There are verses that speak about marriage and then identifies the members of the community of adherents to Muhammad alayhi salam and to the Qur'an at the time of the Prophet as mu'minun. And no scholar, no expert can debate this with me, is that the name of the members of that community, the name that they applied to that community was the word mu'min. The Qur'an itself enforces it and entrenches it by using the word mu'min hundreds of times. So the word mu'min is originally the term that is referred to that community which endorses the Qur'an, which endorses the messengership of Muhammad alayhi salam and all those who came before him, and who endorses the idea of a judgment day, of a hereafter, and all of those things collectively, those who endorsed that paradigm were referred to as mu'minun. Mu'minun. The word mu'min means being at ease, being comfortable, being safe, being maybe even with salvation, enjoying salvation. It's not an easy word to translate, but the word amana in Arabic means to be secure, to be safe. And the word amana, amana, on the fourth scale of the sarf is, in the scale of af'ala. Those who know a little bit of sarf will know that it means to install security, to produce a situation of security, to create peace, to be a peacemaker, in other words. But you can think of amana to be safe, and amana or amana to be one who engenders safety, who engenders comfort, who engenders security. I've translated the word when I did, as I'm working on a translation for my own enrichment and for those close and near to me, dear to me, is that I find the word embracer to be a very good English rendition of the word amana. Because to embrace something does not only mean to accept it, it means to be comfortable with it, to admit to it, but more than admit to it, it is to surrender and to become almost at peace with it. So that is the word historically, and in terms of 800 or 900 times in the Qur'an, by which the community of followers of Muhammad alayhi salam at the time are all referred to. Now, where does the word Muslim come from? Where does this term Muslim come from? The word Muslim, again, comes from a different root. The words sound fairly similar. I mean, it's interesting. Muslim, mu'min. Muslim, mu'min. It's almost like there's an M and an M in the beginning and the end. Muslim, mu'min. Now there's a nun. Sounds a bit similar. But here we're dealing with the word salama. Salima. That is the root term here. And again, it is on the fourth scale in terms of the sarf table, aslama. On that scale, if you take the normal past tense form of the word salama, and you add the alif in front and make it aslama. In Arabic, the word salima means to be at peace, or to be. Salima means to be restful or peaceful, or say, or in a state of being peaceful. Or it could also mean being in a good state. Salima means to be good, to be decent, to be fine. Salima. Salima means generally to be good, peaceful, okay, to be, thumbs up. Salima. To use the word alif in front and to make it aslama, it means, again, it now turns the word into a transitive verb. So now you have to add a subject to it, or an object. I'm never sure about the two. But now the verb has to transition to being us. You cannot just say he is an, you have to say aslama. It means something was made peaceful, or to make something peaceful, right? Or to become I think salima means to be peaceful. Aslama means to make peaceful. So, but the idea here is not to give you an Arabic lesson. I'm trying to distinguish the words Muslim and mu'min. So, mu'min, more of being secure, being embracing. The word salima means to be peace. Salima also means to surrender, right? So, to surrender. So aslama means, Islam means a state of being, aslama means to surrender. Islam means a state of surrendering or a state of compliance. Okay, so let me take it further. Never ever in the Qur'an is there given, I say never ever, but you'll point out to me if you see it. I've looked and I cannot see it. I cannot find in the Qur'an where the word Muslim is further espoused or further elucidated upon. I cannot find a place in the Qur'an where Allah says the qualities of a Muslim are A, B, C, D, E. I don't find it. You help me if you find it. It would be, I would appreciate it if you can point that out to me. I find often that Muslim is used purely as an adjective. And let me see if we can find an example of the word Muslim. So look at all these occurrences of the word Muslim. رَبَّنَا وَاجْعَلْنَا مُسْلِمِينَ لَكَ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّةٍ. Make us submitters to you. Lam ta'tum illa wa antum muslimun. Do not die except in a state of submission. Wa nahnu la muslimun. And we are to him in submission. Wa nahnu la muslimun. And if you read at all these cases, I've looked at them. Bi anna muslimun. It is purely an attribute. It is an attribute of people. It is always presented as an attribute. And here I have the word Salima 140 times. You can do it yourself. Go and find this free app called Analyze Qur'an. Type in the word Salima and go through it. Alladhina amanu bi'atayna wa kanu muslimin. So clearly the word Muslim is used as an adjective. It is never ever referred to. It is never ever unpacked, explained, and analyzed, and elaborated upon. It is always just presented as an adjective. So when the Quran speaks about the qualities of somebody, good quality, it says they are Muslimun, or they are Muslim, or they practice Islam, which means they submit, they comply, and that is an adjective. Never ever, amongst all of these, you can go through it, 140 occurrences. فَنَجَعَلَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ كَالْمُجْرِمِينَ. Never ever is it casually referred to in terms of identifying the community of people around the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam. Never. You go and look. The comment section, please correct me if I'm wrong. Point out to me where the Quran refers casually to the members of the community around the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam during battle, or discussing any issue of marriage, or discussing any issue like I pointed out to you of, it should, like here, speaking about, any form of manslaughter, a case of manslaughter where it identifies the community by that term, mu'min. So the point I'm trying to hammer home, and you check it with me, don't follow me blindly, don't take my word for gospel. I present to you ideas which I leave open to you to verify on your own. The identification of the community of people that embrace the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam in the years 400 and 570, 610, around about there, around the year 610, are all identified as mu'minun. But for some reason, the Muslims changed that title or that name or that denomination which they are called by, and altered it, replaced it with the word Muslim, which is really not the title for that community. Yes, there is a verse where Abraham says, "Wasamma," he titled or he called you Muslimun. But the word in Arabic, the word samma, ism, is not necessarily a name. It is also an attribute. So with the Qur'an, and I know you're going to refer me to this one. Yeah, I think this is the verse that you would perhaps want to resort to and cite for me to explain that the name by which we should be called is the word Muslim, because this term, let's just quickly go through this. I'll just read a piece of the Arabic. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَجَاهَدُوا فِي اللَّهِ حَقَّ جِهَادِهِ وَاجْتَنَابَكُمْ وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنَ الْحَرَجِ مِلَّةَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَهُوَ سَمَّاكُمْ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Conducting, for God's sake, tireless effort, deserving of Him. He chose you. No unnecessary hardship did He place in your creed. It is the same creed as your father Abraham. In those olden days, He named you Muslimin, or submitters. Muslimin, right? Submitters. So this is the verse, chapter 22, Surah Hajj, verse 78. I think this is the verse that you would probably use to tell me, Anwar, but listen, the name of our religion, or the name of our creed, or the name of our community should be the Muslim community. But I want to point out that the word sammakum in Arabic, we cannot draw a one-to-one comparison with the word name. The word ism in Arabic does not just mean name, it also means attribute. So if we say the 99 names of Allah, we don't mean Allah has 99 names. We mean, and by the way, I don't think it's 99. The Qur'an doesn't mention 99 names. So, but when the commonly understood phrase that the names of Allah, it's much rather technically referred to as the attributes, the sifat, or the characteristics of Allah, of God. And so when somebody says, I name you this in Arabic, sammaytuka, yes, in a very literal sense, it means I give your name to be Anwar. But if somebody calls you sammaytuka Anwar, he can also call you somebody who enlightens others, because that's what the name Anwar means. It's to uncover, to unearth, and to make open up, or to shed light on. So by using the word sammakum, where Ibrahim is using this term sammakum, it could sammakum, could just be he termed you, not he named you. He termed you. He gave you the attribute of being submitters. He attributed submission to you. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the word in that particular verse, 22:78, Surah Hajj, verse 78, if you're trying to resort to that, then I want you to go into the dictionary and see what the word sammakum or sammaytuka or whatever really means, or the asma'ul husna. It doesn't mean technically the names of God. It means the attributes, the characteristics, the features. And so when Abraham says that sammakum Muslimin, it means he attributed the feature, the characteristic of being submissive, of being harmonious, in harmonious compliance. So that's the only verse really. And that is not the words of Allah. That's not the words of God. This is putting the words in the mouth of Abraham. Abraham called us Muslims. So this is not, if you look at this verse here, if you're resorting to this verse as a counter argument, Milla Ibrahim هو سماكم المسلمين. So من قبل وفي هذا. You see, this is in the mouth of Abraham. هو ملة إبراهيم هو سماكم المسلمين. So this is not God's term for the community of people that adopt and embrace the word Muslim or Muslimun. I come back to the word mu'min. This is the term that Allah, that God in the Qur'an uses countless times. 800, 900 times. Many, 1,000% more than the word Muslim. The word mu'min is much, much more, is absolutely and beyond doubt being the term that God, that Allah refers to the community of people around the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam. The word Muslim, yes, it could fall in the word sabirin, raki'in, those who prostrate, those sabirin, those who are patient or enduring. The word qanitin, those who are sincere and devout. So the word Muslim would almost fit in those categories. Those are attributes. The pious people, the devout people, and also the compliant people. Musallin. These are all attributes of the community, but in real terms, when the Qur'an refers to that community, it refers to the word mu'min. I haven't forgotten the topic of this discussion. The topic of this discussion is what is our identity? And what is the Qur'an's identity? What is the identity that we derive from the sacred text? As I said to you, the reason for discussing this is so many people read the Qur'an, they understand it, they identify with it, they love what they see, they want to shape themselves in accordance with it, and then they meet the Muslims and suddenly they feel that there's a disjuncture between what they see in the text and what they see in practice. So what is this identity? What is the identity that we are supposed to project? Before I get to that, because the Quran will answer the question, but why is it important? Why is it important for us to sort this out, to work ourselves, to work through this question? You see, today, unfortunately, Islam and Muslim have become terms associated with a religious order, with another religion. So you get Christianity and of all the others, and then you get Islam and you get Muslims. And the barriers, the boundaries have been hardened. So the boundaries around that particular identity has been, the walls, the boundaries have been built solidly. So now a Muslim is no longer somebody with a mission to the planet or to the earth or to the humanity in general. A Muslim is now a member of an order. And so the word Muslim has acquired a different meaning now. So no longer, you see, when the Prophet was commissioned and when he started, obviously he was alone. There was nobody else. So where was his mission focused? His mission was focused on those outside of his comfort zone, right? There was no comfort zone for him. He had no comfortable community that embraced him. Yes, he had some family members, but there was no Muslim community as such. And so his mission was outwardly focused. And his mission was to bring salvation, was to bring solutions to humanity in general. In fact, the Qur'an often addresses itself, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, but then at many other places, Ya ayyuhan nas. So at many places, the Prophet in fact was instructed to address mankind, humanity, and not in a judgmental way, not to tell humanity, go to hell, you are stupid, you suck, you are not good people, you are bad, you are dirty. No, 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 no. The Quran doesn't address humanity like that. In in chapter 4, for example, the Quran says, Ya ayyuhan nasu taqu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum min nafsi wahid. Revere, O mankind, humanity, give reverence to your Lord. So in that Surah Nisa, it's a beautiful discourse that is addressed to humanity in general. However, the identity that has emerged with this Muslim identity has become an insular identity. It's become a closed group now. Now we have an in-group and an out-group, and we are the in-group. That is, the Muslim group is the in-group. And the characteristics of the Muslim in-group are very, very different from the characteristics which the Qur'an is spelling out. So today people will speak interchangeably when your priests preach on the mimbar at the mosque. They will speak about what is a good Muslim, what is a good the attributes of a good Muslim, and Arkanul Islam, and the Arkanul, the cornerstones of Islam. But nowhere in the Quran is that found. There is no place in the Quran where it says Arkanul Islami Khamsa. The arkans, the pillars, the cornerstones of Islam are 5. Salah, Zakah, whatever. Nowhere. So they've generated an Islam, a Muslim identity from outside of the Quran. That's the unfortunate fact. And the identity of a Muslim is not to be found in the Quran, because, as I said to you, I showed you a number of places where the word Muslim is used 80 times or 90 times, 140 times, and not once there does it spell out the attributes of a mu'min. So in other words, the idea of a Muslim is an idea that is a post-Quranic religious title or group identification. In the Quran, the word Muslim is used merely or simply, as I've shown you 140 times, as an attribute, like the word sabr, like the word bir, like the word qanitin, like the word sajidin, like the word ruk'a as-sujud. All of these attributes can be grouped in the same group as the word Muslim, as a submitter, as a compliant person. But now the word Muslim has been extracted from that family of terms and has been made the title, the name of this community. Whereas in the Quran, without any doubt, this community is titled or labeled by the term mu'min. Why is this important? Why is this important? This is important because we have built a religion. We have built another religion. We have built an insular group, an inside group, and we have added a bunch of requirements and rules of entry and what is the other word I always hear is ways in which you prove yourself to be a member of that group. It's like when you want to be regarded as a typical, trendy, young Western citizen, player, young member of the youth in the West, the media will create certain aspirations or certain attributes that if you don't apply those attributes or if you don't practice those things, it would be really not be regarded as the in-group. Like, for example, if you're a student, they do promote it indirectly. You need to drink. You need to, in fact, overindulge in booze at college or university. You need to smoke a little bit of dope. You need to be casual about sex. You need to be, girls and boys. A couple of tattoos would be great. Your dress code for a girl would be kind of exhibitionist. For a man, it's not important. all these attributes, if you project them, you would project the ideal identity of a typical Western youngster or youth. Now, for Islam, similarly, we've invented a bunch of attributes that makes you a good Muslim. And if you do those things, you're a good Muslim. But these attributes are not in the Qur'an. And then those attributes are things like the way you carry your beard, the way you, the type of headgear, hats that you wear, the type of dress you wear, absence of gold, absence of silk, all these extra Quranic features that have been added in. And also, of course, all of them come from hadith books. They find their roots within hadith books. So there's a special identity now, that what makes a Muslim is somebody that walks with a very long beard, preferably not shaven or not cut or not trimmed, wears a jubba or a kurta, whatever they call it, Eastern clothes, steps over his shoes, the backs of his shoes, sort of abuses his shoes, wets up the basin, proud of wetting up a public bathroom, because that is, he's so crazy about his religion that he'll flood the whole bathroom for the sake of Allah. That kind of it's all traits and behaviors. Being very jealously guarding their women so that nobody touches our women. We'll kill for our women, and we'll kill our women if they offend us. So it's this type of innate or nascent violent attitude. We will go to war for this and for that and for the other, which is nowhere to be found. So all these traits, the way we dress, the way we look, the way we behave. I went to a mosque once, and the speakers inside the mosque was turned to such a high volume that it almost damaged my eardrums. And then I realized, why is nobody questioning it? Because the whole mosque was sitting there and suffering, and many of those people took damage to their eardrums because it was massively loud. It was painfully loud. And it's not good noise, it's not music or something. It's the screeching sound of somebody that is making their adhan in not a too melodious voice. And then I realized the problem here is these guys really feel that they are being very spiritual. They're being very religious in enduring this damage to their eardrums. And that is the Muslim. The Muslim is somebody that has invented a whole host of strange and weird and crazy and unnatural traits and behaviors from books outside of the Qur'an, which they've just simply accepted. And if you don't accept it, you're not part of the in-group. You're not part of the in-group. And that goes for the excessive ideas about privacy. I once had a case where a guy told me something about privacy, and it was a very, the situation was that he wanted me to erect a big wall, and I said, but why? He says, no, but look, as Muslims we should have privacy. And I said, yes, no, fine. I think the Muslims have today vulgarized and almost like turned this idea of privacy into a crazy concept. My belief is you're private in your bedroom and you're private in your toilet, in your bathroom. But you don't have to create these castles of privacy. Where does that come from? And that's another, trait. I read in a book somewhere, Muslim architecture is where there's walls around the whole house and they have a courtyard in the middle. That's not the prophetic. From all I've read about the Prophet, he didn't build a house where he was completely secured like a little fort or a castle, medieval fort, where him and his family were on the inside. And yet that is the architecture of Islam now. So all of this, exaggerated ideas of privacy, exaggerated ideas of what is cleanliness, because now the Muslims are building their bathrooms in a certain way. They have these millionaire homes or multi-million dollar homes where they actually build gold taps in a special way where they can wash their feet. The Muslim identity has been vulgarized. It has been turned into madness, and it is not what the Qur'an is referring to when the Qur'an refers to the mu'minin. And this perversion of the identity of a Muslim is what is causing a problem, my friends. This perversion of what is a Muslim is what is chasing and what is withholding people from coming and exploring this idea called Islam, or the idea called Tawheed, or this idea called the Qur'an. That is the problem. And that is a major problem. But even bigger than that, let me take it one step further. I'm a keen reader or a observer of international global geopolitics. I keep abreast of geopolitics and developments, especially now in the Middle East, in Gaza, Lebanon, Iran, Yemen, Russia, Ukraine. I'm a keen observer of what is going on in the world. And here's my problem with a Muslim identity. You see, when you pervert the idea of what is a Muslim, you divide the world artificially between Muslims and non-Muslims. You create an artificial divide between Muslims and non-Muslims. And then you get people who say, yeah, but Muslims must stand up and defend Gaza. Muslims must stand up and unite and defend Lebanon. Muslims must stand up and unite and defend Masjid al-Aqsa. What's my problem with that? What is my problem with that? And I have a serious problem with that type of call. And I know it is deep embedded and embraced by the leadership of Hezbollah and the leadership of Iran, even the Houthis there. It's very deeply embedded, this resorting, this invoking of the Muslim world. The Muslim identity must come and must help us. What is my problem with this? My problem with this is that you are dismissing right there and then all those people who are not Muslim in terms of your definition, who don't have this exaggerated notion of privacy, this exaggerated notion of hijab, of modesty, this exaggerated notion of cleanliness, this exaggerated notion of how your women, of providing or safeguarding or protecting your women. All these exaggerated and perverted notions of being a Muslim that is invented after the time of the Prophet, after the Qur'an's revelation, are now part of this Muslim identity, this reduced and diminished and trivialized concept of Salah that we see, this trivialized concept of Zakah that we see, this trivialized concept of Hajj that we see. All of this makes for the Muslim perverted identity called a Muslim. And what you are saying is that those people who don't buy into this new perverted idea of what it is to be a follower of the Qur'an, an adherent to Tawheed, an acceptor of the Creator, of the singular, almighty Creator, sustainer of the universe, all those who believe there's a God, who believe there's prophets, who believe there's but they don't buy all this other additional baggage, the excessive and perverted ideas that have been created after. If you don't embrace all these other things, you are not here. You are not welcome to join us in this noble battle to confront the oppressors of the world. And then they go and they say, why does God not help the Muslims? You see, the premise is wrong. Why does God not help the Muslims? Your premise is wrong. If you say, please God help the Muslims, your premise is wrong, and God is not a sectarian God. To God, religion and sectarianism and those artificial sects and identities that we've invented And I know the word Muslim is an attribute, but it's not an identity. The word Muslim is not an identity, it's a attribute. And here you've turned the word Muslim into an identity. And then you still get those who call themselves Sunni Muslims. So they pile another false identity on a false identity. Do you see where I'm going with this? Or a Shia Muslim. You have now a false identity on top of a false identity. And then you say, oh Allah, please help the Sunni Muslims. Oh Allah, please assist our Sunni Muslims. That's almost like a Jew is praying to God saying, oh God, please save us, our Talmudic Jewish people. It's like two rugby teams playing on a field. And the one rugby team is saying, please God, make us win. God has no interest in making your team win against the other team, because neither of the two of you represent a fundamental improvement and a fundamental liberation and development and positive addition to the universe. Are you still with me, my brothers and sisters? I hope you're still with me, because this is very important, this concept of an identity. Firstly, this idea of a Muslim identity, which is not grounded or rooted in the Qur'an, causes problems for those who want to be Muslim. First of all, it excludes them, because why must they go through all this thing? They must turn into Arabs. They must turn their dress. They must grow their beards wild. They must become excessive in the idea of what is privacy. Their women, they can't stand this idea of Islam that you are creating, or this idea of a Muslim identity that you're creating. They don't want it, because it's not even grounded in the Qur'an. It's not helpful when it comes to fighting for the oppressed and confronting the enemies today, the global oppressors. And we know what who those global oppressors are. We know who they are. You don't hear Russia. And I'm not saying that I'm a fan, but I do support their position here. In this case, you won't hear Russia calling upon all Christians of the world to unite to confront Ukraine. You won't hear that, because Christianity has ceased to be an identity. Christianity has become a secondary or a tertiary identity now. And in some cases, not even an identity. You don't find America wanting to be labeled as Christian America. Those days are gone. Those in the south, there are some areas of the Bible Belt, they still refer to themselves as Christian, but that's 20% of America, 25%. In the big cities where it matters, there's no Christian identity in New York. There's no Christian identity in Los Angeles. There's no Christian identity in Paris or in London. So, but we are trying to rekindle and reignite and perpetuate this identity of what is a Muslim. This is radical stuff, eh? I know it's difficult for you to accept what I'm telling you here today. I know it's difficult for you for that penny to drop, that Anwar is saying that there is no identity called Muslim. How can Anwar say that? Well, I've used the Qur'an. I showed you that there's no place in the Qur'an where Allah refers to the people around the Prophet Muhammad as Muslim. In fact, that term was used by Abraham, and it was not used to name a people, but to characterize a people. He characterized us as Muslims, just as we were characterized as those who are musalliin, as observant people. So the point here is that this word Muslim is not helpful. It is not helpful for Islam to become less insular, because we have become insular. We've built hard boundaries around ourselves by implying or enforcing or imposing a very hard identity and a very difficult way of people to get into the system. But also we have created false calls, false solidarities. There is no Muslim solidarity, my friends, and I'm here going against the very core of the leadership of Iran, of Hezbollah, of Hamas, of whoever. I'm going against them here, and I'm not But I will explain in a few seconds that all is not lost. I'm not saying that there is no place for a religious Qur'an identity, but just this Muslim identity is not helpful. So let's move to the idea of a mu'min. What is a mu'min? A mu'min, as I've said earlier, is the word that we refer to as an embracer, somebody who is comfortable with, somebody who is embracing of, who is endorsing of, who is affirming of. Now, what is that? What is that identity? What does that identity comprise of? And for that, we can go to the Qur'an itself. There's in fact a chapter 23 of the Qur'an is titled Surah Mu'minun. It's just a word that is applied, a name that is applied because it starts out by listing the attributes of the mu'minun. There is no similar chapter in the Qur'an for the community called the Muslimun. So I think it's important that we look at these attributes, and then you will tell me if this doesn't make a lot more sense. And you tell me, do you have to be a Muslim? Do you have to be wearing Arabic clothes? Do you have to wear an excessive form of modest clothing? Do you have to have an excessive idea of what cleanliness is? Do you have to have a perverted idea of privacy? Do you have to have a perverted idea or a emasculated and diminished idea of what salah is? No, look at this. Here we use the profound and the grand meaning of the word salah. And I'll show you now how that meaning is actually confirmed in these few verses. Surah 23 verse 1. In the name of the one true God, the cosmic benefactor who is kind. The true embraces, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. The true embraces must inevitably succeed. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. So the topic is the mu'minun. Those who in their observance show reverence. الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Now the word salah, not being diminished, not being trivialized as a prayer, it is taken back to its true meaning, which is to be observant, to be attached to be aligned to adhere to, right? That is the word salah, to adhere to connect with, to attach to align with. Those who in their observance, what observance? The observance of the code, the kitab, because kitab means code. Those in their observance show reverence. Those who steer clear of baseless opinions. وَهُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. Who steer clear of baseless opinions. Look at these traits now. Is it not possible for me as a Russian, me as a French person, me as a Chinese person, me as a African from Uganda or from anywhere in the world, me as a Brazilian, is it not easy for me to foster this identity? Look at this. Those who steer clear of baseless opinions. Yes, me a Brazilian, me a Ugandan, me a Australian, me a French person, Chinese. This is timeless. This is eternal values. Those who steer clear of baseless opinions. Those who engage in social and moral refinement. I can identify with this, whether I'm a Brazilian, a Frenchman, a Chinese, an African, whatever. I can understand the importance of the value of social and moral refinement. Those who restrict their sexual indulgences except to their marriage partners or to those bound to them contractually, completely free of. I can identify with that. You know, whether you're an American or a British or a African or a Chinese or a Japanese, we can make the case that sexual restraint is healthy for society. I don't have to make this a perverted form of a identity. I can build an identity that is based on what is reasonable, what is rational, what is defensible. Whoever desires sex behind this is transgressing. Moving on. The next attribute, those who faithfully execute their trusts and promises. This is identity I can associate with, and I can even think that a Brazilian, a Chinese person, a European, an African person, is anyone, a Inuit person is from Greenland can associate or can identify with us. And the word identify includes the word identity. So we can all identify with these traits, with these characteristics. Those who guard and preserve their bonds of connectedness. وَعَلَمْ صَلَّوَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ. Now, why would the Qur'an as a trait say the word salat twice? Why would that such unnecessary tautology be used? Because the word salawat is used in a different sense. In the first sense, it refers to observance, and in the second sense, it is salawat, it refers to bonds of connectedness. Now we're talking about family connections, we're talking about community, we're talking about society in general. I can get anyone in the world to see the value of that. These shall be the people that shall fall heir in the end. It is they who shall inherit paradise. My friends, do you see what I'm getting at? The Qur'an, at numerous places, it elucidates, it sets out the identity of a mu'min. It never sets out the identity of a Muslim. That is just always used as a characteristic. But the identity of a mu'min is often espoused. Rules pertaining to a mu'min. Even this verse here that I referred to earlier, let me first look at this verse. Do you really expect to enter paradise when you have not yet encountered that which befell those before you? They encountered adversity. They were rocked so severely to the point where the messenger and the embraces with him asked, حَتَّى يَقُولُ رَسُولُ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ. So again, this picture that emerges here is that you have a messenger and you have a group called the embraces, the mu'minun. So the idea that I'm leaving with you in this video is that the term that we should be applying, the term that we should be exploring in terms of creating an identity, of assuming or adopting an identity, is the term mu'min. The Qur'an sketches that sufficiently for us. And I can almost promise you that if we should discard this limiting, this restrictive term of what a Muslim is, this term that they create an image in your eyes that you cannot identify with if you are not born a Muslim, it becomes 1,000,000 times easier to step into that identity. Myself, as a French woman or a Brazilian woman, I now have the task of adopting a concept of modesty that is not restrictive, that is not perverted. You see, the Qur'an simply says, guard your modesty and look away when somebody is making an explicit display of the private parts or of the certain parts of their body. Look away. It's easier now. It's easier for me. That is the standard. The standard is not put on some black cloaks over your head and stop having a face for the world. But rather the identity is cover those aspects of your body that will make of you a sexual object. Much more easier identity to adopt and to assume. And yet the Muslims insist on being Muslims, being Sunni Muslims, being Shi'i Muslims, being Sunni Ash'ari Muslims. So the terms just extend. You see, no longer are you a Sunni Muslim, you are a Sunni Ash'ari Muslim. You are a Sunni Ash'ari Sufi Barelvi Muslim. So the terms just go on and on and on and on. And we expect anyone who wants to have our acceptance to adopt all those narrow, un-Quranic identities that we've invented. Now, coming back to the geopolitical side of the equation, you see, how would I see the war in the Middle East, or the war against the genocidal, monstrous nation of Israel, this entity, this country that doesn't represent Judaism in the least, that represents Satanism. That's all it represents. How do you confront them? You see, they want you to confront them as Muslims. They want you to confront them as Sunnis and Shi'is. They want you to confront them as some other sect, Isna Asharis and Zaydis and whatever. Because that is how they thrive. They cannot face a united world. They need to face a sectarianized world, a indoctrinated a community that is not rooted in humanity, but rooted in some sort of perverted idea of what their identity should be. Now, if you come and you say we call on all Muslims to unite to confront Israel, what you are saying is we are calling on all non-Muslims not to unite with us. That is the call. That is the call. And you are destroying the global solidarity which the Qur'an speaks about. The Qur'an is a book that appeals to a global fraternity, a global brotherhood, a global sisterhood. The Qur'an is not interested. God is not interested in your sectional identities. Yes, the term mu'min is there, but the word mu'min is not used as an insular, elitist, chauvinist group. The word mu'min, when it is applied in the Quran, it is applied as a fraternity upholding a certain group of standards, a certain set of values. That is the term mu'min. And in no way are the mu'minun at a level where they are exclusionary to the rest. You see, the Quran depicts the mu'min, those who project the identity of being a mu'min, in other words, being sexually restrained, being true to their word, being true to their promise, being caring of their fellow human being, being charitable, being upholding ties and connections to family and to community, submitting to the code. All of those are not exclusionary attributes. Those are attributes that are given to elevate or to catapult or to push a certain community as a vanguard to the rest of humanity. So the mu'min is not an exclusionary group, it is a vanguard movement. It is a movement that is cohesive, that is united, that is true to their word, that is committed, that is dedicated, that is passionate about what they are doing, that have a mission, a goal, a singular mission, a singular goal. That goal is not to achieve earthly power, that goal is to satisfy and to earn the acceptance of their Lord and Sustainer. And that, my friends, is the true concept of a mu'min. When these leaders in the resistance, the leaders in Iran, the leaders can graduate from this trap in this quagmire of what is a Muslim. You see, what they are trying to say is that the Saudis and the Iranians and the Pakistanis and the Azeris and the Turkish must all unite. You see, the Turkish and the Iranians and the Saudis don't share the same values. You see, Muslim values are not mu'min values. Muslim values are not mu'min values. Muslim values are not even values. They are certain. It's almost like an endurance test. It's how weird can you dress? How weird can you groom yourself? How weird can you act in society? That is Muslim. Whereas mu'min is integrative. It is something that makes you part. It is something that makes you blend. It is something that makes you perform wherever you are, whether you're in Brazil, China, wherever. So my friends, I come back to the purpose of this video. I want to explore the idea of what is the Muslim identity. There is no such a thing as a Muslim identity. The attribute of being a Muslim, being compliant to God's will, is one attribute of being of the mu'min identity. And the mu'min identity is the identity that is explained at numerous places in the Qur'an, least of which is in chapter 24, verse from Surah Mu'minun, from the first to I think the 12th or 15th verse, and at numerous other places also. The mu'min are the people who adhere to a certain set of human values, not cultural values, not cultural practices, not certain endurance tests. And that, my friends, is what we need to strive for. And that, my friends, is what the future people who will be chosen to rule or to guide humanity are the traits that those people will possess. And inshallah, I hope that this identity that I'm speaking about, the mu'min identity, will sink in. You will realize, I don't mind if you call yourself a Muslim, yeah, but a Muslim is almost like saying, I'm a healthy person. You know what I mean? It doesn't define you. Being a healthy person is one aspect of being, a person. But I also need to say I'm a compassionate person. You see what I mean? So by saying I'm a Muslim, you're just basically mentioning or naming one characteristic. Being a mu'min means submitting to truth, submitting to what is righteous, submitting to what is wholesome, complying, embracing, adopting, affirming all that is wholesome, righteous, proven, and rejecting all that is baseless. I hope that is useful, my friends. Went on a bit long, but inshallah, I hope you will find meaning in these words. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.